Cassie, and I'm going to be talking about the influence of American gender roles on 20th century prosthetic design. So I want to ask you the his or hers question. That was the title of my presentation. Who do you think this belongs to, him or her? Your answer is probably neither, because in today's society we don't have a very gender-biased society anymore, and our prosthetics are customized to the individual and not the gender. But we'll see, we're going to look at this as a timeline, and one of the major trends that we're going to see with women is that in the early 1900s, they have very aesthetically pleasing prosthetics, but they're not as functional. So here, the function of her arm, you can't even tell barely that it's a prosthetic arm, but it has minimal function, and she can put on makeup and hold things, and that's about it. But on the other hand, pun intended, we have a very functional arm, but it looks kind of robotic. But he can hold a gun and shoot with it, which is the masculinity at the time, the whole stigma there. And so that's what we'll be looking at, those trends on a timeline. And then this is the general timeline that we're going to be looking at. You can see, like, just from beginning to end, she's very bashful. She's hiding behind this newspaper, and on the other end, she's naked on the cover of a huge sports magazine. And she's got tattoos, she's got her legs, she's got everything. And so not only are we going to be looking at the design, but we're going to be looking at the societal differences. And then on the other end, with the men, it's going to be a modernization of functionality. So as different needs change throughout the century, it's going to change the needs. I mean, here, the big trend is basic to bionic, is how I like to put it. And so we're going to break this down into decades. And so here we're going to look at the 20s and 30s. You can see again, she's not looking at the camera. She is turned away, and she actually has a leather prosthetic leg, which is one of the more high-tech models of the time. And but she's still having to hold herself up with a chair. And she's going to have minimal mobility in her joints and everything. And on the other end, we have a more functional model, and you can see he's in a factory. His injury was probably factory-related, most likely. And so in order for him to get back to work, he has to have a more functional arm that allows him to do his work. So this design is going to look more like a hook and less like an arm. And then as we move into the 40s and 50s, this is getting into World War II era. So here we have an advertisement, and women are trying to date, get married, get a husband before he leaves to go off to war. And so this ad is saying, if you buy our legs, you will be more sexy, you will be more appealing, and you will find a husband. And you can't even tell here that she has a prosthetic leg. She probably doesn't even have a prosthetic leg. This is probably just a cute woman. And on the other end, we'll see that the war caused a huge technological boom in mass production. And so since there was so many amputees, so many prosthetics that were in need, they had to mass produce the prosthetics for them. So they're all lined up for a fitting for a new leg. And also with the World War II era, we're going to see the influence that had on women going into the workforce, and this will influence the rest of the century. So you can see here that she's now in a factory working, just similar image to the man that we saw earlier working in the factory. So now women are going to be taking on these injuries and now be taking on the prosthetics, of the more functional prosthetics. So now that they're more active into the workforce, women we see in the 60s and 70s they have more jobs, they're more active. And actually what I found really interesting was a lot of the images showed women without prosthetics. And this is really confusing, but I think that it's due to the fact that they're so active, and it's just one more burden for them and one more thing for them to think about and have to deal with. But because we're getting into Cold War era, they are coming out with more prosthetics, and they're actually now looking more aesthetically pleasing. And we now have the socket design, we have arms that look more like arms, and it's more comforting for the user and the high tech that America's going for at the time. And so now we're going to move into the 80s and 90s, and everything's becoming more customized and more modern at this point. And so this is a very versatile foot. That's how they would advertise it. And it has ankle joints, and the foot can slip right into a shoe, any shoe you want. For a woman, this could be the heel, as you can see here. And then when we look at the men's side, another influence besides the Cold War is also sci-fi movies. And so this is from Star Wars. This is the Luke Skywalker arm. He just like walks on and slips it on. And so that was a huge deal, and designers from then until today are still trying to master this arm and make it a real thing because it's so advanced and the perfect design of what we're looking for. And so today we have a customization up to the point of self-expression. So this is the Allel's design studio. They're a Canadian-based company, and they created prosthetic covers so you can express yourself in any way. You can do hot pink. Like, they have models out doing this, which is really amazing that you can see an amputee that's also a model. And then in terms of society, we have a whole range of needs from desk jobs to professional athletes. Here you can see, this is a famous picture of a Paralympic athlete, and he's running with a 5-year-old girl, and they have matching cheetah legs because the need for runners is the cheetah leg. That's the best leg for them, and he's a professional athlete, and every little girl deserves to play and run. So looking back, here's our timeline again, and you can see, obviously, we've gone from black and white images to color images. Up top, you see we've gone from bashful to bold, and our technology has gone from basic to bionic. So the main idea of this is that throughout the whole time, the main trend has been that everything is user-centric. Whatever the society needs at the time, that's what the prosthetic devices are looking for. And I want to leave you with this story of my cousin Rachel. She is a mother of 3, a computer engineer, and a survivor of breast cancer. She had to have a double mastectomy. This is her before, and then the other image was her after. And this is her now. She wears a blonde wig instead of her brown hair, and she's in the process of getting breasts. And so the point of me telling you this story, although she is not getting a limb and she's getting breasts, is that she is able to customize what her needs for the lifestyle that she's trying to live. And so she chose that she wanted to have breasts. And these were some of the quotes from my interview with her, and the reason why she chose to have breasts is that she didn't feel disabled, but she felt like a freak because she didn't look like a woman because she didn't have breasts, and that's a huge, there's the whole femininity stigma behind that. And she wouldn't consider herself to be disabled because she wouldn't put a handicap on her car, like a handicap sign. Thank you.